Okay.
So what I was saying about the songs in this album being so eclectic, and the this song specifically, the Soft Parade, which is a medley of a lot of different sections, which I think is kind of the draw to this album. At least it was for me when I first heard it. I think that the song "The Soft Parade" was the part that I was immediately attracted to, and then over time, then became a fan more of there are other songs in the album like Wishful Sinful and To All the People, and of course I knew Touch Me already because it was a huge hit song, but um, just to go back to the song "The Soft Parade," it just there's so many different sections to this album, and I can't play the whole thing because that would take too much time. This part is one of the best parts, I think, of the album, of the song.
Yeah, it has movements. In classical music, you have movements, and I would say the song has different movements. I agree with that. Very bluesy. This part.
Yeah, I'm proud to be a part of this number.
And this part is so Doors, right? If you just listen to the instrumental part,
Everything must be
it's just so
Yeah.
Channel Street where people play. Welcome to the soft parade. All our lives we sweat and save, waiting for a Shannon rain. Must be something else we say.
It's got a kind of a southern folklore to it. Like I said, like during the Civil War, you could see,
Everything must be this way.
it's got a groove. See, that's Steely Dan. Ricky, don't lose that number.
The Salt Parade has now.
All right, we get it.
all right.
It'll be 30 minutes, and I won't even be able to talk about my album.
All right.
Good album, though.
It is good.
My top four, which I may have mentioned, was Shaman's Blues.
Wait, you can say that on camera.
Yeah, I am saying that.
Oh, you aren't saying that. Okay. You just cut me saying you can say that on camera.
We might have to cut you. So I'm going to say it all over again.
Right.
So my top four picks of the Soft Parade.
Mm-hmm.
I did Shaman's Blues, which were not in your top four.
Right.
Which I really love that song. I wish I could sing it now, but I can't. Like a couple of tunes or a couple of notes. Wishful Sinful, Wild Child, and then Touch Me. And, yes, I've heard Touch Me a gazillion times, but it's just... And again, what makes a song so popular? Is it playing it a billion times? Maybe it is. But you could play some songs, and I don't care if I hear it a billion times. I hate it every single time. But this one I do love. I do.
And that was one of the honorable mentions that I had.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the album so much that it was hard to pick only just 4 songs from it. So, like originally, I had "Tell All the People" as part of it and "Touch Me," but the more I listened to it, the more I gravitated towards those 4 songs that I picked. So, to me, it's one of their best albums, and that's not a conventional opinion, but I think it's
it's
Album.
unconventional.
It's a great album, in my opinion.
Yeah. So. All right. Well, there's Soft Parade. Good for you. I think you really pushed it. I think the Doors. I think the remaining members of the Doors will be like
or something. Maybe.
Well, I think they'll be. I think they should reply. Okay, Robbie.
Right.
Whatever. I think you guys should hit the subscribe button. So,
Yes, absolutely. John, come on, John,
one time.
come on, one time, John, come on.
All right.
All
So
right.
let me do mine. Okay. So I picked Morrison Hotel, which was their fifth album. Was released in February 1970. So after they did the Soft Parade, they went back to the basics. So probably at the time when Soft Parade, they probably got a very not the greatest reviews in the world, just because they were known as a hard blues group, a lot of keyboards, and then they introduced all the brass and the woodwinds and the winds and everything else, and they got a lot of flack for it. Mike and I were talking, off camera about how the Beatles were able to experiment and do new things with every succeeding album, and they didn't seem to get the critics perhaps as the Doors did, and it could be maybe because they were teeny bop. They had a lot of teen girls that absolutely screamed for them during Beatlemania, and maybe they took a twist knowing they were going to lose perhaps that audience, but then gain a bigger following. Whereas the Doors, they didn't really have a teeny bopper. They probably just had a lot of great fans that just said, "Wow, after the first two albums, we're three albums. Where are you going with this one?" So they went back to the blues, the basics with Morrison Hotel. So this one really doesn't have any hits on it. To be honest, their only single on this one was "You Make Me Real." Was their only single. Roadhouse Blues was actually on there. I apologize. Roadhouse Blues was on there as well. They were both released in February 1970 from my notes. Did go platinum, regardless. There's actually a real Morrison Hotel.
Yeah.
That they didn't fake the scenery. The scenery was actually from a hotel, and I think it was in Los Angeles. So they took a lot of photo shoots in front of that hotel. It's kind of cool. So why don't we go right into my top four? My fourth favorite song on this is "Queen of the Highway."
Mm. Interesting.
Obviously not of your top four. Jim Morrison wrote the lyrics about his relationship with his girlfriend Pam Corson, who later became his common law wife. I don't know if they really actually got married. So Jim and Robbie actually wrote this.
Okay. Now, on this album, are they individual songwriting credits too?
You said that you thought they were. They might
I thought
be.
they were. I'm not positive about that. So let me just check real quick. Because I feel like when I watched there's a really great documentary that's called, I don't know what it's called, but it's The Making of LA Woman, right? And this came out in 2011. I think it was the 40th anniversary, right? So
Of LA Woman, yeah.
Yeah, in 2011. Because Ray was still alive. And a really good documentary. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I can't see it on YouTube because you have to purchase it on YouTube. That they had made a conscious decision to go back to doing the crediting of all the songs by Doors, all four of them, rather than individually crediting, which they had done in Soft Parade. And I'm just looking up Morrison Hotel real quick in real time here, and I believe, let's hold on, track listing.
Wait for it.
Yes, so these are individually credited on Morrison Hotel as well. And it's all Morrison Krieger, with a couple of songs credited to the whole band, including Roadhouse Blues, which was credited to all of them.
Mm-hmm.
But all the rest of the songs are all Morrison Krieger, basically, or either just Morrison or just Krieger. So
yeah.
I think the LA Woman album was sort of their trying to get back to basics kind of thing, So. All right.
Yeah. So I don't have a lot of notes on Queen of the Highway, just other than it's a song to her. My number 3 is "Waiting for the Sun."
Love love it. Love that song. That's my number one.
Again, going back to the psychedelic
Totally.
feel, which is awesome.
I love this song so much.
Um,
I could listen to this song over and over and over.
Yeah. So from my notes, this is about the quest for the American dream, which is never attained. That's basically the motive behind this. Yeah.
And this is what, like, one of those, like, almost like Led Zeppelin, right? With the
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
House of the Holy. Isn't that on the album House of the Holy? And Waiting for the Sun is not on Waiting for the Sun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. 2 albums later. Yeah, it's a great song. Just very like druggy, trippy. That's the word I'm looking for, Mike.
Trippy.
This is trippy.
Psychedelic.
Which figured by 1970, the psychedelic is kind of passe for the most part.
Yeah.
But they were able to capitalize on it.
Waiting for the sun.
Waiting for the sun. Waiting for the sun.
For the sun.
Waiting. I'm waiting for the sun. Come on, Jim. Jim, I've been waiting for the sun. Jim? Okay. You think we're all doped up? No, we're not. Come on, Jim. Anyway. That's my number 2.
Awesome.
That's my number 3, sorry.
That was your number 3. That was my number 1.
Whoa! Wow. All right.
That's my number 1. Fine.
This is my album, so
Sorry.
I don't care about it.
I'll tell you what my number.
Yeah.
My top 4
I know
after
you will.
stuff.
I know. You'll have songs and stories and God knows what. All right, my number 3.
Yes.
Wrong. This was my number 3. All right, can I have another beer, please?
Yes.
All right, my number 2.
You need another beer?
No.
Okay.
I was kidding. Actually, I don't need any more beer from here on in. But anyway, my number 2 is the Roadhouse Blues. Oh yeah, I've heard this a million times.
That's my number 3.
Okay. So apparently, this song came about when Jim was coming to one of the sessions completely inebriated. Just kept just over and over talking about money beats soul every time. Money beats soul every time. Petition the Lord. Never mind. It's like Saturday Night Live. We've probably done that a little bit too many times, right? When they do it and they keep doing something over and over again. So I won't do that anymore. I'm sorry.
It's like Hans and Franz.
Yeah.
Okay, we got it.
All right. So anyway, so from the notes that I got, I wrote down if there was an actual roadhouse that inspired this song, it was probably the Topanga Corral, a windowless nightclub in the counterculture enclave of the Topanga Canyon, which is where Jim Morrison lived. So they think there was a lot of twists and turns on the road to get to this Topanga Canyon, and maybe he was talking about this as he was driving around to his house. Guess who plays the harmonica on this?
I don't know.
It is John Sebastian of the Lovin' Spoonful, but he didn't go by John. He went by a guy by the name of like G. Pugliese or something like that. And I think the reason why he did that, it wasn't because he didn't want to be affiliated with the Doors because of all their incidents that they were happening, but I guess his label was Reprise Records, and I think they didn't want him having his name on the Doors.
That happened all the time.
Right?
Like George Harrison on the Cream thing had to go by a different name.
Yeah, Paul Ramone for Paul McCartney when he was doing it. So he actually plays harmonica, which is great.
That's cool.
What else? What other fun things do I have? Well, I looked on Wikipedia, and Alice Cooper claimed that he was the inspiration for the line, "Woke up this morning and I got myself a beer." So apparently he was hanging out with Jim Morrison, and then Jim all of a sudden started playing that on this the Roadhouse Blues. Like, wait a minute, I just told him when that was. So I think he was trying to get credit for that. And again, they didn't really use a bass player for most of their live stuff, but by this time they had to, because all they could do was album studio work because of all the, as we mentioned before, all the incidents. So that's my number 2.
Yeah, who played bass?
Lonnie Mack.
Lonnie Mack.
Lonnie Mack. I don't know who Lonnie Mack is, but I think he's a session player that's played on a lot of different groups. Okay. That's my number 2. Can you guess my number 1?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me look. He's Frog.
Blue Monday. I have them both. Oh, this is so groovy. This is groovy. This kind of goes back to the '60s, right? Think of Hullabaloo. Can you imagine a woman with a mini skirt and the white go-go boots, sitting on a platform playing this?
Like this, right?
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
He talks about all the shitty incidents that he had.
I can't imagine that.
This song. I didn't go that low. This is in The Waterboy. Do you know that?
No,
the scene in The Waterboy where they're like practicing on the football field, and the song is there, and everyone's just getting their ass kicked, including Adam Sandler. But this song is on there, and they play quite a bit of this song. It's awesome. But this is like 2 movements, 2 songs, and even the second part is awesome too. But this is my favorite part of it. Yeah. Here, Robbie! Yeah. My number 1.
Yeah, I think that Doors, 3 Doors, get definitely their instrumentation, their ability, their sound, all that stuff definitely gets overlooked and overshadowed by the legend of Jim Morrison, and not to diminish from his legend and all that stuff, and his ability and his his singing ability and all lyrics and all that stuff. But I think that he definitely overshadows the quality that the band had, the tightness.
Oh yeah,
had, and the sound of the Doors. I mean, he is the voice of the Doors, but they're the sound of the Doors, and they're equally. Those 3 guys are equally as important as he is.
Oh yeah.
But I don't think that's as recognized as it should be. Because he has a certain look.
He's gorgeous, right?
He's a good-looking guy, and
he's gorgeous.
He's very gorgeous.
He's got locks. He's
got
locks.
Sexy.
Right. He is.
I want him. So
yeah.
No, I mean he has the imagery and all that stuff.
And the leather pants.
Definitely, and that probably did quite a bit to put them in the
Overshadow.
popular culture and all that stuff. I mean, of course, I mean, that's just natural. Um, but the other three doors should not be their contribution should not be overlooked. I think I think it's equally as important. So
Totally
definitely. All right, so some personal kind of stuff, if you don't mind.
Well,
Although I will tell
there two more. Yeah, we have two more segments. We're going to talk about certainly his death, but we'll at the end. But yeah, tell us
All
your
right,
personal
so
experiences.
here's
Personal experiences with the Doors.
My personal experiences with the Doors.
Yes,
With
the Doors.
With the Doors, personally,
Personally.
I have met with each of them individually. So here's my top songs from.
We
Morrison
can do
Hotel,
okay.
just real quick.
Yes, real quick.
Maggie McGill was my number 4. Roadhouse Blues is number 3.
Yes.
Peace Frog number 2. Waiting for the Sun was number 1.
So we had 3 or 4.
To me personally, a lot of people feel like the Morrison Hotel was sort of a big comeback from
Soft Parade.
The Soft Parade, right? Because Soft Parade was not regarded well when it first came out, and so this was kind of a return to basics with the heavy blues of their first 2 albums at least. Backdoor Man, that kind of like sound, that they had. To me personally, I don't feel like the album is as good as Soft Parade, and I really.
Okay, now I got to get defensive here. I thought it was personal. Well, it is personal. It's your personal.
Yeah, it's my personal opinion.
I mean, it's not right.
I don't feel like Roadhouse Blues is better than Soft Parade. I feel like Soft Parade is one of their best albums. After, like I said before, after the first album and after Strange Days, I feel like Soft Parade is, I would say, number 3.
Really?
I do, and
all right.
I would probably.
I guess
say,
I got to listen to Soft Parade about 100 more times.
I would even say that LA Woman would probably be number 4.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. I agree with that. LA Woman was the other album I thought of doing.
I feel like the LA Woman album really was
blues.
Their sort of, if you want to say comeback album, at least comeback in the sales sense or the commercial sense, where I like Roadhouse, I like Morrison Hotel, and don't get me wrong, and I think there's some great songs in there like Waiting for the Sun and Roadhouse Blues, and
yeah, we went through all that. Yes,
Peace Frog.
Yes,
but I think the second side of the album is like pretty poor. And I don't know. I just don't think it's it. I think it's regarded as a comeback album, but I don't actually.
I picked it. That's why.
No, it's not. But I don't think that it is. I don't think it should be regarded as a comeback album because I think Soft Parade is much better. But anyway, I feel like LA Woman should be considered as a comeback album, which I think it is in some ways. Anyway. Some personal things. So I came upon the Doors, I would say, when I was a kid, and I was trying to think of how I came upon liking them or knowing them. And a lot, in a lot of these podcasts, I talk about my cousins influenced my musical ability and how my dad influenced my ability. And this is one of the ones that my dad influenced. And this is his album. It's called 13. And this came out, this is a compilation album. And this came out in
13 songs or what's 13?
Yes, it's 13 songs. This came out in 1970. So this is between Morrison Hotel and LA Woman. And it has some of their greatest hits on it: "Light My Fire," "People Are Strange," "Renounce Blues," "Touch Me," etc. And so anyway, this compilation album, and I feel, I think that I've seen in some documentaries and stuff where Elektra was getting a little alarmed by Jim Morrison's appearance, his weight gain and his beard
Beard
and
and
all
his
that stuff.
glasses. Yeah.
And this is kind of one of those things that where they were say, okay, well, we're gonna here's a young,
Sexy.
svelte Jim Morrison, right? And so we're going to promote that version of Jim Morrison rather than the current version of Jim Morrison. So
Loaded.
um, I do remember listening to this record on my dad's awesome Pioneer stereo, and great album. It's the greatest hits album. It's called 13. So that, and then when I was in junior high, I bought the greatest hits album, the one with the. I don't have it right. I don't have it with me anymore, but
Yeah, somebody stole it.
the traditional. You've seen the cover with the Jim Morrison's face, and it's got sort of a red kind of square or whatever over the cover. Greatest hits album sold like 10 million copies or
It's incredible
like
how you're
that.
able to do that, in between albums, and you just sell greatest hits, even though they're on all the other albums. People still flocked
Yeah,
for those. It
Yeah.
never ceased to amaze me.
I mean, especially at that time. Now,
No,
it seems foreign now, right? You can just go on Spotify or Apple or whatever. You
do your own greatest hits.
listen to whatever you want to. But, not back then, of course, you had to, either the choice was you buy all the individual albums, the 6 albums, or you buy the greatest hits, and which came out was like 1980, I think. You have all the best songs, and so for the casual fan, that was enough. So that was in junior high that I got in the greatest hits album. And then what I think that my real kind of affinity or deep kind of love for the Doors came when I was in college. And between my freshman year and between my freshman year and sophomore year, that summer, and I had bought a couple of these albums that I had showed you, and I'm sure that I had more at one time. And I just remember, that particular that was for me. That was between 1988 and 1989, I think it was, or 89, 90 something, somewhere around there. Um, um, just really gravitating towards the Doors, and I think the Doors movie came out 91,
91.
I want to say. So that kind of coincided a little bit. I think for a lot of college kids, and I think a lot of high school kids or whatever, I think they gravitate towards that kind of the Doors music, and a certain kind of uh, college kid or whatever. It's like the stereotypical college kid who's like experimenting with
That's when I knew.
smoking pot
That's
and all
when I
that
got
stuff,
into them.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's just part of going to college, and you experiment with smoking pot and all those kind of things, and it just kind of goes hand in hand with the Doors music, and maybe even the Grateful Dead. You kind of flirt with that kind of music and all that stuff, and you become familiar with it, and that definitely was the case with me in that summer in, like, I want to say 1989 or so. All right, so yeah, so just like a lot of college kids, just totally in the 80s and the 90s, just gravitated towards the Doors music, just like we did with the Grateful Dead. And I feel like their legend grew over time. I feel like they're in their day they were certainly celebrated, but I feel like their commercial appeal and their legend certainly grew over time into the 80s and 90s, and continues to this day. I mean, there was that Doors movie from 1991, Oliver Stone one, and there's like a million documentaries that you can watch on YouTube. It's just one of those classic groups, that you can say, the Beatles and the Stones and the Who and Zeppelin and the Doors and Pink Floyd, and
Yeah, they're in there. They're in
they're
there.
part of that iconic kind of status. I think, I feel like that they are, at least, and I think their sales definitely back that up.
Yeah. I mean, really, when I first got into the Doors was in college. I had a friend of mine in high school was totally into the Doors, and I was like, yeah, yeah. At that time, you got to understand that's like the late '70s, early '80s. You're getting into new wave. You're getting into a lot of different music. I mean, I was still totally into Rush and Yes and Genesis and stuff, but not as much into the blues, really the blues bands like the Doors. But then I went to college, and my roommates, the floor I was on, they were playing the Doors constantly. And it just seemed like the kind of a renaissance. And that's when I really got into them. And the guy that I knew from high school actually went to the same college at U of I that I did. So I'd kind of seen him a little bit. And he's saying, see. But it's true. I mean, it was almost like there was a Doors renaissance at U of I, in like 82, 83. And just from my personal experience, I'm sure they were throughout all colleges, right? And then I've gotten even more into them with my brother-in-law, rest in peace, Dan. Loved the Doors and loved playing the Doors every time I was down in Florida seeing them. Yeah, so great experiences, great band. They were inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1993 by none other than Eddie Vedder, who seemed to be inducting everybody in the 90s. But he played on some songs with the band as well. So he had a great voice. I mean, if anyone was as close to Jim Morrison's voice,
Yeah,
it's probably Eddie Vedder.
and that low voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the final segment here of the Doors, I think we should talk about his death, because I think you
Yes.
say about the legend, the legend only grows over time.
Mhm.
The fact that he died at 27, which is like the 27 circle or whatever they call it,
Mhm.
so many rock musicians died at that age has only furthered the legend. But he died in Paris. So LA Woman, right? Their last album with Jim Morrison was done in March '71. At this point, I think Jim Morrison is disillusioned. Really has had enough of being an actor on stage. Well, he can't even go on stage, right? He can't even perform, which probably really irked him, right? And he's like, well, I'm done with this. Like anything, we did this Sullivan show. We did, he's ready to move on to the next thing. And I think going to Paris, where Pam was at the time, he moved out there with her and wanted to kind of delve into poetry and such. But I think, I think
he wanted to clean up.
I think that's exactly
Yeah.
that's exactly where I was going with this. So he's trying to clean up and get sober. I don't know if that necessarily happened. I think he probably went into relapses. His girlfriend was into heroin, and I don't think she was trying to stop. So for him to think he was going to get clean out there living with her at that apartment in Paris doesn't make sense to me. Although you listen to some documentaries, it was like they really didn't see each other. They just kind of lived there. But like Jim would go out and explore on his own and with friends and people, acquaintances that he had when he got out there. But yeah, you're talking what? So he was there April, May, June, so roughly 4 months. And then you want to talk about circumstances or the actual death that happened on July 3rd?
Do I?
Yeah. Do you want?
No,
You don't want to talk about it? Okay.
I don't know the details.
No.
No, so much. I guess there's.
I could talk about rumors.
Yeah.
Want me to talk about rumors?
Rumors. I
Yeah.
don't know all
I
the
know two of them.
details. Yeah.
So the rumor that Pam said in the official statement, she gave an official statement that they basically went out to see a movie with, I guess Robert Mitchum was Jim Morrison's favorite, actor. I don't remember the name of the movie. They went to a movie. They came back to the house. Quiet night. He listened to records. Blah blah blah. Next thing she knew, he wanted to stay up. She went to bed, and then he drew himself a bath. I guess he coughed in the middle of the night, coughed up blood, and then he drew himself a bath. And she went back to bed, and next thing she woke up at 6 in the morning, and she noticed that Jim wasn't in bed, and went into the bathroom and saw him in the tub, dead. And apparently she didn't believe it at first because I guess he was a prankster and with her, but she found out that he was dead. And the idea was that she didn't know what to do. They're in Paris. She doesn't speak French that well. She's got a couple of friends, but it took her over 3 to 4 hours before actual any like doctors came to the apartment. And basically, the guy put a pulse to Jim, said, yeah, he's dead, and took him out of there, put him on the bed, and then after a while they just took him away, put him in a casket, and that was the end of it. There was no autopsy, which to me, and I'm a conspiracy theorist. People that know me, sometimes I do fall into that unfortunate prey of conspiracies. But the thing that I don't understand are two things: why it took her over 3.5 hours to do anything, to call a doctor. This doesn't make any sense to me. And I don't know, maybe Jim Morrison drew baths. Maybe he was a guy that drew a bath here and there, but I don't see it. That's just to me. The other rumor that's out there is that night after she went to sleep, he snuck out and went to the Rock and Roll Circus bar that was in Paris, a very popular bar out there, and that there were dealers out there, and that he was able to come upon some heroin, which he never took by needle. Apparently he was afraid of needles. So he sniffed it in a bathroom stall, and it was like 90% pure from some interviews from other people that were there that night. And he locked himself in the stall, and he passed out. And apparently people were trying to open up the door. They couldn't. They realized, well, at some point they were able to break it down, grab him, realized that he's probably unconscious or just out of it. And they brought him back to Pam's apartment and put him in a tub and drew a bath for him. And I kind of believe that, because you're talking about a lot of young people. I mean, Pam's 23 years old. She doesn't know any better. She probably panicked. Maybe she didn't know about it, but I think she did know about it. I think that he died of a drug overdose in a bathroom, and it would have been awful to see him there. And so they brought him back. Whether he was in a bathtub the whole time or not, I don't believe it. So I think it's unfortunate. It was an accident, regardless. I don't think there was anything sinister about anything that happened that night, other than the fact that probably people panicked.
Mm. Right. And I think he's still alive. So.
At 80, what would he be?
Living
81
in,
years old.
Africa.
In the Serengeti, most
Mr.
likely.
Mojo Rising.
Anagram for Jim Morrison, by the way.
So, yeah. No. So, yeah, it's a legend. That's I think every major band has a legend behind it, right? There's the certain iconic status of Led Zeppelin or the Beatles or the Rolling Stones, the Doors or the Who, or Pink Floyd. Just like a lot of legendary status and rumors and all that stuff that helps to promote them, whether the band is part of that or not.
Right.
It helps to promote their legendary status. And I think the Doors definitely have benefited from that, despite the fact that their music is like so amazing and
On its own. Yeah.
so amazing on its own. But I feel like the legendary status and all the stories and the rumors and all the kind of stuff and the imagery of Jim Morrison, the sexy kind of like top, shirtless kind of
Persona.
photos that are part of so many of their albums and posters and all that stuff. I think it definitely has enhanced that. But I think the music definitely stands on its own. And just real quick, just a couple of real quick things here.
Before you jumped onto those two, just to kind of finish off the grave. People visit that grave site every year in Paris, and it's huge. I mean, there's tons of. Unfortunately, there's a lot of graffiti on his tombstone, which is probably an homage to him, but I don't know why I don't like that. But it's awesome to see some of the YouTube documentaries and people going back there every year listening to his music and just having a great time. Actually, Robbie Krieger and Ray Manzarek went there one year in 2011, I think, which was kind of cool for them to kind of go back. That was the first time I think they visited the grave, which was cool. I haven't seen John Densmore there. I'm sure he has visited, but just very cool. People just kind of sitting around listening to his music, and it's really cool to see some of the younger generations that are there as well, especially in France. And I'm sure there's people that come from all over the world to pay homage. So
Yeah.
It was really cool.
Yeah. They're one of those bands that has transcended generations, and there's not a whole lot of bands that do that. Beatles, of course, and the Dead, of course, and the Stones and all that stuff. But it's like it seems like their music just continually speaks to every new generation of kids.
Yeah, agreed.
Not all kids, but just the kids that are looking for something that's kind of off the beaten path and all that. And they're definitely one of those bands. So, real quick, just a couple of. This is the cover of the Doors box set. I have this box set. I think this came out in 99, 98, something like that. Some of the CDs from the box set. Real quick. It's cool kind of box. It's not your traditional box.
So this is
set.
all part of the box set.
There's like rarities, and then there's live performances and studio.
Is the box set on
outtakes.
like Apple or
I'm not sure. I was gonna look. I'm not sure. There's a live concert. So it's kind of a cool box set. I think it's like 98, something like that. This particular album, I showed the Doors 13 album, which came out in 1970, which was the only compilation album that came out during Jim Morrison's life. This one came out after he died. This is called Weird Scenes from Inside the Gold Mine. And that's a lyric from the end. And Marge Criz and Jim Criz provided this album.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yes. This was
one you got credit there, Marge. And Jim, rest in peace.
This is one of their albums that was...
How did you get it?
She gave it to me.
Am I going to get an album? I like Marge. I like Yes. So if he has any Yes, let me know, because that's going to be one of our groups.
On one of their walls going down into their basement, they had certain albums framed, and I had just mentioned at some point that I thought how cool that was, because it's a pretty rare record. And it's a double album, and so upon Jim's passing, she gave me this record, so I'm eternally grateful for that. And Jim had amazing musical taste that
Jim Criz
we used to talk about all the time. And this is a really good, it's a double album of basically their greatest hits. So anyway,
That's what I mean. It's so awesome
It's
that they
awesome.
can repackage music from albums, especially if you're a diehard Doors fan. You have all the albums and then the greatest hits and then the compilation, then a box set. The fact they were able to say, what it means is, yes, your Doors fan's going to get it, but then they're going to be able to get some other people involved that are not Doors fans, perhaps, that would want to listen to it.
Yeah.
And that's the key.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably never caught that when I was a kid. I always used to see the greatest hits like, well, we already got the albums. Why do you need the greatest hits? I wasn't a promotional guy, right? I wasn't a promotional guy 20
Right,
or 15 or 20 or 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. But, you get the idea. I am now. I guess that's it. I guess you've talked yourself out.
Basically, the we want what we want to leave you with a couple
What do we
things.
want to leave them with?
Couple things. One,
petition the Lord with prayer. That's the one. What's the other one?
That's a bit.
There's three.
I was going to say that.
Oh, great minds think
I
alike.
really was.
I stole his thunder.
And the other thing is, we want to ask you, and I meant to do this in the beginning of the video, just like
I hope you guys stayed around.
just
really
like the
do.
Pink Floyd video where I meant to ask this in the beginning, but I didn't. What is your favorite Doors song, or what is your favorite Doors album?
Doesn't have to be your favorite. It could be an eclectic line, like Mike's Soft Parade. That came out of nowhere.
Right. We want to know. We want to know. There was a very interesting on YouTube. Somebody, it's a random person from the world commented that how much on the Pink Floyd one. He commented on one of our comments about Roger Waters, and it was so interesting. And we love those kind of things, and we would love to encourage more people.
How do we get them to do it though? Like, how do we grab them into the internet, and how do we suck them out and get a? What is it? What do we have to do?
If you're
people?
watching this video,
tell us what we have to do, people.
If you're watching this video, it's on YouTube, right? So all you have to do is like and subscribe to this video and comment. You can comment
positive or negative. We're Teflon.
Doesn't matter. You can say I fucking hate the Doors, right?
Or us.
Doesn't matter, right? We would love the engagement. We will. I was so excited to see this person.
I agree.
I think he was from Europe or something. I think it's from from what I understand. So I think that's so exciting, and we are trying to reach out to as many people and just talk about music. That's all we want to do.
Right. We want to keep the classic rock rolling.
We're music fans. We want to engage with people who are interested in rock music, and we want to keep talking about it. That's all we want to do here. So we're really excited about that. So please help us continue that kind of conversation. And Santana is next, and that's going to be
our YouTube channel is Classic Rock Reviews Unfiltered ! With Mike, and Dave, and we would really love to hear from you. Either way, positive, negative, doesn't matter to us. So thank you very much for joining. We love this episode. We're going to love all of the episodes because we love music. So thank you, and stick with us. And Santana's next. So until then, rock on.
Peace.